just put it there.
Oh, I forgot to close the trunk, see?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I had your soup and 7 slices of bread soaked
Oh, nice.
in the sauce, in the soup.
Did you heat it up, the sauce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we have the best day in a long time, I think. It's not too cold, not too hot, not too sunny, not too cloudy, not too windy.
Yeah.
So, where do we begin the questioning? What questions have you got left?
You have about the family, the medicine family.
Yeah, the Meads.
Yeah.
Medicine,
Yeah.
movies, cine, medi,
Yeah.
action.
My question, I guess, is what did they end up becoming? The Meads? Did they go into the Medici family and then into Germany? And
Well, again, Medi was the capital of what is now Iran,
yeah.
and that you have to believe is where they begin the long-term planning for the last 10,000 years.
Mm.
And what they need is constant brainwashing. So what you have is people moving into houses, people living as families, the startup of religion and schools and government, that all has its origin in that concept of the big 8-0. Big circle to find the big answers, the smaller circles to refine the problem. And here, for example, the people who would know it all, and Jenny referred to it in her piece that she put on there, Elections Never Change Anything. You cannot be a member of a secret society that has its rituals in a different country than Canada and is protected by a police cordon in Orange County, California, and where churches are used for ceremonies and houses are used for rape and murder. You cannot have that in Canada without the RCMP knowing.
Mm. Yeah.
It's anybody who's going to be named to a cabinet post has to be identified to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police before they make any public announcement. An investigation has to take place, and the Prime Minister has to be told if the person is right for the job, type of thing. Now, obviously, if you investigate Vic Taves, his name is not spelt the way it sounds, you would come back with the information that, this guy kills people. It's as simple as that. And those people are in Southern California, Mexican. Well, if you look at where he lives in Winnipeg, this is the home of the disappearance of more young girls of Aboriginal background that exists in Canada to the rate that the government was forced into doing a Canadian-wide investigation in public, bringing in all the women who would tell their stories so that they can believe that the government gave them an opportunity to speak out. But they never came to a conclusion about who's doing this. They never even looked at it, who's doing it, because they knew, and they weren't allowed to tell. Now, if you're the RCMP and you have a place to file your documents, what is the biggest danger that you face is that someday 1 million people surround the building and force open all the cabinets and start going through the paperwork. You know, that's the biggest thing. So what do you do in order to maintain a file? Police, civic police, use hospitals, nurses. They and the nurses aren't necessarily in on it. They go to the hospital and they get the nurse's computer and they subdivide a section of the nurse's computer. And that becomes the place they hide information away from the police station. So policemen have a need to regularly go to hospital. Tom told me in the last days there that whenever they want to talk to him and they think they can get away with it, they will come and park out on the street and ask him questions. He had the excuse of going from the house to the car so he could listen to a baseball game or something on the radio in the vehicle while I was watching something on TV, usually sleeping in front of it. But the real reason was to be able to go out there. And he said, but the bigger thing is make like you're sick and go to the hospital. And they'll make like they need to be at the hospital, and somehow you get together in the same room. And you are an informant that has been blackmailed into not being arrested for what you did in the past. A long story, but it has to do with he ran a construction company and didn't do a very good job of the windows. And every time it rained, the buildings, anyways, they had a hearing on the matter without Tom being there, and he was basically in hiding, and I didn't know when he came to me and said he wanted to help, that he was really running away from being arrested. So that's how the system works. Now, if you're the RCMP, what do you operate that is not at the RCMP? You don't want to have the information on ministers raping and killing little girls in another country inside RCMP headquarters. And I sat there for a while and said, well, they can't be using the hospital because the Ottawa police use the hospital, and they would be kind of passing each other all the time. And an RCMP doesn't have a need to be at the hospital on an ongoing basis. But if you go to Ottawa and you leave Parliament Hill and go out on Wellington Street and you turn left, you pass the War Memorial, and the first street you turn on is called Sussex. And on Sussex Drive, you have things such as the Royal Canadian Mint, you have the National Art Gallery, type of thing. I don't know if they're still there, because what I'm telling you is from memory, and I haven't lived in Ottawa in 20 years, 25 years or so. So, what do? You keep on driving down Sussex, and you're along the Ottawa River, and it kind of curves with the river, and all of a sudden you arrive at a place where the Prime Minister lives on Sussex, and across the street where the Governor General and all of his staff, big property there too, you pass by those two places and you keep going. And when you get close to the end of Sussex Drive, all of a sudden you turn your head to the right because there's a bunch of people riding horses. And you look at them, and they're wearing RCMP headquarters uniforms. What is the thing they're practicing at doing? I stopped there and I watched and watched and watched. And then all of a sudden you see it all come together. All the riders form a big O. And then an 8 at the bottom. Say those people. So big 8-0, same as we have on the chart, is happening. The files on all the things they know about are there. They're there. At the RCMP headquarters, and they're telling you as you're driving by on the road, if you know what you're looking for, find the big 8-0. And that's where the RCMP hide their material. Everything they wouldn't want to keep at RCMP headquarters. Now, strangely enough, when I was looking at filing charges against the top 3 Mounties, a number of Mounties came to me and gave me information. High-ranking to middle-ranking, none of the RCMP were bottom of the rung new people or anything like that. They were all kind of just below commissioners. And I got charges filed against them, against the RCMP commissioners in court, because of the testimony of these people. In Ottawa, because Parliament is sitting sometimes and not sitting some other time, I got used to going to the RCMP downtown office and picketing there on the days Parliament was closed. And one day, about, I don't know, 12, 15 RCMP came out onto the sidewalk. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm going to be spending the night in jail or something. And they came and they surrounded me. And when they surrounded me, they said, "Mr. Kealey, we would like to make you an honorary member of our Special Federal Investigations Unit of the RCMP." And they pinned me with they had a tie pin. In those days I wore a tie. They put it on me and he said, "If at any time in the future you need any assistance whatsoever, just let us know." And without me knowing it, that these people were the same as names that I had given to the court, they all appeared in court. They all had to stand outside the court and only go in when they're called, and they have to leave after they've been called. But they testified against the commissioners of the RCMP, which I'm certain left the judge no room, no wiggle room. If the people who did the investigations are ready to blame their bosses, then it's got to be okay. So the three bosses were charged, and then senators and chief of staff and cabinet ministers were charged based upon the testimony of the witnesses. Nobody in head office of the three commissioners got fired, although they were ordered to trial. And the Prime Minister and the Premier of Ontario had got together and made up a new rule that said the OPP is going to investigate the RCMP, and they never did. I was told it's going to be the Canada detachment. And after 3 years, I brought a witness with me, and I went to the Canada detachment. And I said, I would have believed that if you're responsible for an investigation that I haven't seen any sign of in the last 3 years, you would have started by asking me.
Yeah.
And since you haven't asked me, I'm coming. And they had done nothing. And it just kind of evaporates, you know, people's memories and everything just evaporates over time. So the week after the charges were laid, the third ranking guy, I'm trying to think of his name right now, French-Canadian name, got appointed as the head of the RCMP Musical Ride Division. In other words, he just testified against the commissioners, and he's now being given command over all the secret stuff that's known in Rockcliffe. Okay. He's got to have connections. It's, to me, you know, it's not the commissioner that's going to give him an appointment. Who gives him an appointment to go there for testifying against the commissioner? Too much for me to accept as coincidence. And that basically is a situation that everywhere I looked, the people who had testified against whoever it was, cabinet minister or whatever, chief of staff, they all benefited. Who would give to someone who testifies against their bosses, and their bosses remain on the job, and these guys get promoted everywhere. Everywhere. So I came to the conclusion slap myself in the face, wake up. This was all rigged from beginning to end. They knew what was going to happen, and what they knew was going to happen happened. And what I thought was going to happen happened, but didn't happen. Okay. So what do you do in a country where the justice system doesn't work? You got to remember that I gave credit to Lynn Coulter, 30 years service, for having come to the right conclusions in the court and filing charges. And when the media asked, she said, I have nothing to say, I just do my job. And that's it. But then I started thinking back, and thought back to the day when I was trying to file the charges, and the male justice of the peace was giving me every excuse in the world of little forms and long forms and all of that stuff. And a woman stepped out and said, go on for lunch. And she took over. Was that arranged?
Yeah.
Was that arranged? And when she said, okay, I have enough information, I want to hear it in a formal manner, because there we're kind of in the lobby and she's on the other side of a counter. She says, go up to either the third floor or the fourth floor courtroom, gave me a number, and she said, and I will be back in a minute. And I never crossed my mind that that meant anything at the time. But in order to get from where her office is to where I was in the courtroom, and I saw her walking up the stairs, and there was a delay before she got to me here, the only place she could have stopped along the way is the guy who wouldn't let charges happen, the boss, the crown attorney, whatever you call them these days. I don't know. It's the Department of Prosecutors. Somebody had to give her permission, even though the law says you don't do it. The reason for private prosecution is because these guys won't do their job. But why did she have to stop there and be 10, 15 minutes later than I am walking up the stairs? Somebody told her, this is okay. Don't worry about it. Just listen to the facts. Make a decision on the facts. We know what you're going to hear. So So there I am 3 years down the road, knowing that for all intents and purposes, I had won, but in my mind, no, it was rigged. It was rigged. And that's why I decided, okay, I got to find out. People had been calling me, asking me to go and do speeches, which I did. Talks to a few hundred or a few people, didn't matter. And as long as they got me there and got me back home, that was all I was requesting at the beginning. But I said, now I've got to change the process, and I'm the one who's going to decide where to go and tell people. And like I said, I got a hold of a car for $2 and went on the road, place to place, and everybody was waiting to hear from me. So it wasn't a big job to find who in town could arrange a meeting, kind of thing. And I had all my notes, so I could tell them exactly what the testimony had been and how it came about. Nobody in Canada reacted by doing something about it. No media who attended any meetings, unbeknownst to me who they were and what they would do, nobody repeated anything I said. One guy in Alberta is the only guy I remember standing up and saying, seems to me that what they've organized is making a lot of money. How do I get in on it? That's after a few hours of explaining criminal activities by thieves in government. So I end up here, and I end up in the bush. And when you're in the bush, you're surrounded by trees everywhere. I was telling Maggie there about how when I sit under that tree, I have a sense that they're on my side, that they're telling me, you know, you can trust us. We'll provide the same defense for you as we provided for the maple trees or the oak trees or whatever when they were little. And they have. They have. I had to apologize that I had cut the lower branch so that I could hang my jacket when I sat in the chair.
It's for jacket.
Yeah, she'll forgive you.
Yeah. And I still feel the vibrations coming off of all of the trees here. Fir, these are all fir trees, so it's linked to the word first. So it's not only ST, but it's the name of the tree. And it rains cones down upon you when you sit there. And then to have Hydro come to the house and saying they wanted to cut all the tops off the fir trees in the front of the property here because they were interfering with hydro lines. And I said, if you look at the hydro lines, there may be a branch or two that could be shaved off, but you're saying you want to cut all the tops off fir trees. Do you know what those trees are? And they said, no, it doesn't matter. I said, well, if you go to town and ask the people at the tree farm there, they'll tell you that they don't grow in Canada. And they told me that, and I said, well, where do they come from if they don't grow in Canada? And they said, Russia. They come from Russia. They're called Sitka spruce. And they are near St. Petersburg or someplace around there in Russia, the northeastern part, close to water. Somebody brought them here. So they said, well, the only Canadian American connection is they moved some of those trees out of eastern Russia to Alaska. And if you go and you look at the map of Alaska, Yukon, Canada, Northwest Territories over there, and British Columbia is over here, but there's a panhandle down the side, and in the middle of the panhandle is a place called Sitka. And if you would remember, about 10 years ago or so, in the United States, there was a woman who was the first to present herself as a candidate for president of the United States. She ran in the election, but not as president. By that time, she knew she wasn't going to win, so as vice president to one of the candidates. So Sitka would suggest that somebody from there brought a tree over here and planted it. And I said, well, it's not one tree, it's 49 trees, which is the division between Canada and the U.S., 49th parallel, all across Western Canada. So they kind of looked at me at the tree place and said, well, you got a treasure there. You got something special. And I said, why? And they said, because Sitka in Russian apparently stands for not guardian angel, but something like that, angel. I'll think of it. I knew it 2 minutes ago, but I kept on talking and I forgot. Something like
Protector, isn't it?
Angel, you're protected. And they don't want you protected, so they came and cut the trees. I showed Maggie yesterday. Do you mind if I call you Maggie?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Magdalena. That sounds better. Archangel. Archangel is the word they use. Arch. A-R-C-H. An archangel tree is there to protect. So they know, or they wouldn't be doing this. They know and didn't want anybody else to know they knew. So they killed Tom. he put on a show for them, but he didn't know it would be his last show. He fell in the doorway to Walmart because he knew the cameras were there on him. But they took him to the hospital, and when Jennifer got on the phone and talked to the, what do they call the guy that comes and does the autopsy? Coroner. The coroner began reading the notes he had got from the nurses, and Jennifer said to him, "Can't be. Cannot resuscitate or know that a person is dead in 4 minutes. It's totally impossible, unless you know in advance that you're the one that did it." Okay. She said it takes an hour to go through the procedures. And then he said some other things, and she said, "And was there any other bottle between the feeding mechanism and the arm? Was there anything else?" And he said yes, and he read the notes. And she just turned to me in the bed and said, "They killed him. They killed him." Since Bell listens in to all the conversations that are happening on the telephone and records them and sends them to a think tank who then work out the details of where they are then and what are they going to do about it. Jennifer, right here, called from the back and handcuffed and thrown in a police car. Last time I saw her, except in my mind, on the telephone. and she said, I think one of the first calls to California is, don't call me on a photo line. She said, because I want you to remember me as I am, or something to that effect. And I'm not sure that you're going to find an answer to this problem in the few months you believe will happen. And it hasn't. She was right. She is always right, and it pisses me off because she's so negative that when she continues to talk about things that are negative, I keep thinking, you're causing it. Mentally, you're causing the problem to continue. Yeah. Stop thinking that way and start thinking about a solution around the corner, and that's when the solution will come.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I was the same.
Yeah.
I was very negative person.
Yeah.
That's
So
why I kept stuff.
it pisses me off in one sense. It allowed me to expand my knowledge about trees and all of that. The cell coming in and recognizing persons, if it had just been individuals that I didn't know, apparently I know them all because been here before, done that before, but not recently. The ones that I recognize are family or workers that I work with. So there's no question in my mind that what I met in the back was a number of people, proved to be 26, who appointed Jennifer the 27th, first female in their group. can't be that I have the only group. There must be something similar other places. And when I asked them why they chose me, they said, "You earned it." So what does that mean, you earned it? They said, "You never give up. You have to face circumstances that are continually more and more unbelievable, that people would be so nasty. And you continue it. Even though your own wife is the one that is the most negative of everybody, you keep plugging away at it. So that's why you earned it.
Did they say why there's no females in the cell?
It never even crossed my mind to ask when it first happened, but it crossed my mind when they said that Jennifer would be number 27. And when I asked them, it was basically their discussion about how power is transferred over time from the original, which all had a female background, even though they were hermaphrodites, to women, and then the addition of males, and the ones who would have to take the blame for what they had done once people figure it out would be males. And the women would realize that they were used for the purpose of covering the tracks of women. All of the words male appear when describing female, women. Okay? So you're always talking to basically a man in their view of things when you're talking to a woman, because they've included the word man in the name that they've given. And now the process has reversed. And what you are seeing is the disappearance of power by men being handed over to women who can't hang on to it but pass it on to women.
Yeah.
And that those women will pass it on to gay and lesbians. And they will pass it on down to the alphabet name of all the groups.
LGBT.
Yeah. So just know it's happening and see what you can do about sorting out and figuring out who deserves a better life, a better chance, and who does not. Who are real when they say, I'm a Christian. Because if you look at the original story, even though it's a fable, if you look at the original layout of what they're supposed to do, it's not what they're doing. You know, no one would add $1 million of donations to change the front of their building if they knew that there were people living on the street who had nothing to eat.
Yeah.
That's where the money should be going. You should be decreasing the building size, move into a rented space as the people stop going to church. not glorifying it. And, how many churches in this neighborhood are closed because not enough people to pay the hydro? So I only wish there was a quicker answer, but it's not the way it works. You have to, first of all, get a request from creation. Creation passes the request on only to the court. The court is in Antarctica, and it sends out groups of people who have lived and died, who have chosen that as their thing to do. I don't know their circumstances. Will it give them the right to move up in the lineup, or are they already there and they're coming out to do this? I don't know that. But they gather information, and that information is basically based on the three questions. What did you know? When did you know it? And what did you do about it? Because if somebody didn't know about it, then the next two questions are irrelevant for that person. But they can't deny it because the answer comes out of them without their assistance. So think of it when you're sitting on a stage with hundreds of people in the audience, and you're asked, what did you know? And you would have all this excuse prepared, but your mouth doesn't work. You speak a lot more slowly when you're not allowed to participate in the discussion. And then you notice that behind you, exactly what happened when you found out is on a screen, and everybody in the audience sees it. Not because they have an interest in you as much as they know that's where they're going next. That's the rule of the game, is you see it in others, and then you see it in yourself. And creation renders a judgment. How they do that, since creation has no language, I don't know. Sel would know, but I don't know.
Have you ever met those people that seem to mirror each other's insecurities or inadequacies? They don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
Wow.
So anyways, we look at the setup, and it's all a visual thing of a courthouse in the middle, paradise on one side, and a final goodbye on the other side, and a lineup. And you can go into paradise if the court allows, not on the judgment of people who used to send them to paradise was nuns, because being a nun is equivalent in their mind to being a hypocrite. When they talk about cosmetic They are cosmetic. They are not real Christians. And it's not, the Christian is just where they start. All religions, all governments, all bureaucracies, and they are the worst because they benefited from the assassination of the royals in 1789 in Paris on the front lawn, chopped their heads off. And they had seen the worst that royals could do, and now they've put in place a system worse than what a few 2,000 royals, could do, and replaced it with millions, if not billions, of bureaucrats around the world who steal the resources of a country for the purpose of feeding a one-world government. No future left in that process. Only cataclysmic events can make a change. Catastrophic events come into play when nobody listens. And creation doesn't create cataclysmic or events that kill millions, but creation has the power to stop it. And the exercise that I'm going through from beginning to end is basically to have me, in this case, and others in similar cases, I imagine, to walk through step by step and see that when these people are cleansed from life and ain't going to paradise, those people have to bring with them what you may believe before you look into it, that it will take with them a whole bunch of people who don't deserve, like their children and their parents and grandparents. And the reality is not true, because they are who they are because they inherited either traits or DNA or personalities from their parents and grandparents before them, 4 generations leading to them, fed this person to be as nasty and as self-serving as you can get. And while they were being nasty, they were making children. And those children are waiting to take their place and be as nasty or nastier in the future. So don't be shocked by the fact that children will die. And Jennifer prompts in here and says, cats didn't have anything to do with it, and so will they die. I put the question, I got no answer. Cats are going to a different place, is basically my conclusion. They are going to be okay. And this is kind of the notion of the safety provided for cats, surrounded by trees in a limited space temporarily, and then all of the clinic needs they may have during that period of time being done here by a cielical, heavenly clinic is what I imagine the word means, cielical. And some people who will join with them and want to go as well. By the way, there was a helicopter, from what I suspect, from what I saw, that dropped down this morning. Came about 100 feet.
Really?
Yeah,
Hey.
big, heavy thing. And I was having trouble seeing it because the sun gets up over there. And then it flew. So it seemed to be on a journey from Montreal to Toronto, or someplace, Kingston, someplace that way. Big noise. I was talking with Jennifer. I was in the house, and I could hardly hear myself talk. And just hovered over a bit and then moved in that direction. So they had to come and check out your work. Digging the circle.
Yeah.
So we are not alone is the conclusion, that there are thousands, if not millions, of people watching what is being done. Hopefully out of that will come some people, quote unquote, with functioning brains. And those with functioning brains will, if they take up the challenge of a new lifestyle, then they will learn. If they decide that learning is too tough, they won't learn. So, but what happens to them is not our responsibility. To all the people who will live or be saved, it's their responsibility. And parents for their children and their grandparents. I looked at the story of New York and the governor Cuomo and looked into the background. And the great-grandmother of Cuomo was a streetwalker. She was poor, and she had no place to stay. And you saw the journey of a great-grandmother having children who had children who had children, and the change in the span of 100 years from being poor on the street to being the governor of New York is possible. So for those people whose ancients did the right things and they changed along the way, they should stop for a minute and consider that death is easy. Death is not a problem for anybody. You're alive, you're dead. Something happened in the middle, like the cat got bit by a coyote or something. You die. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 years, that's nothing. If you don't take the time to do what you can do to change things, eternity is a long, long time. And by the way, eternity is a number 8 lying on its side. If you look at the meaning of the word eternity, is
This goes round and round.
Okay? And if you look at number 8, that's life. I got a plastic one over at the other chairs over there. When you are born, you're dropped someplace on the 8. Are you middle class? You go in the middle. Are you rich? You go this side. Are you poor? You go this side. And your job in life seems to be to stay on the rich side. But life takes you around. And where do you deserve to be for eternity? Would you like to be with the poor, with the rich, or with the middle class? Because what you do while you're here, no matter what group you're in, will determine in the end how you spend eternity. Going around in circles, joining another circle, go around in circles. Do what you can do to affect the process, or your eternity on one side will be ushered off the map and you're not there anymore. And there you will have everything you want or need or suggest or what have you. But most of the people are sitting in the middle waiting for their turn. So although they're not cold, they're not hot, they're not hungry, they're not all these things, they have no access to anybody they ever met, whether family, friends, co-workers, whatever. They only know of 2 people every day. And those 2 people change from being a person you just met to a person you'll never see again. And you're in the middle. And you're waiting for your turn to go in the courthouse and sit in the audience and watch and ponder about what answers you would have given to try and cover up if the need be, or what truths you would speak. But don't worry, actuality will be there. So you're not making the decision as to what is shown. You have it. It's retrieved from you, but it's not you allowed to explain it or excuse it or whatever. Any questions?
I'm thinking.
I've got a couple if you're thinking. Well, the first one will be quickly to finish off what you're saying about people in purgatory. Are they presumably the people that were asked the question, what did you know? And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you go to purgatory. And the reason there's so many people there is because so many people who don't know what's going on.
Don't want people to know.
Okay, right.
And you know, it's funny because everybody does something they don't want other people to know at one time or place in their lifetime. That's not a problem. Sex, by the way, is not a problem. This is an invention of the nuns so that you won't see each other naked.
Learn some stuff.
And learn what reality is all about. It's so what you did is not the problem. It's what it cost and how you tried to make up for it. And that kind of stuff, along with the rest of your life. Sometimes you can't make it up to the person you did something to because they're dead or whatever. So that's not the blame. Is did you learn a lesson along the way? Did you change your attitude along the way? Or did you keep repeating the same stuff just so you could be richer, more mentally feel higher than anybody else? You know, that's what's going to give you your eternity. And of course, creation has said, although I will not allow eternities or any future to be run by nuns or anybody else for that matter, I want to give people one last chance. And when they come out of the court and have been found guilty, do they, in fact, have no more choices, no more places to go? And the answer to that is, at the door of the courthouse, there will be a red chair. I told Jennifer when she gets back, one of her jobs is to paint the chairs red. One guy said, "What? You're leaving them outside? They won't last." He said, "What are you going to do when they fall apart?" I said, "What creation does, I'll burn them." That's it. You know, that's what wood was made for if it's not going to be used as a chair. Anyways, in the red chair at the door of the courthouse is Jennifer. And somebody coming to Jennifer is not going to an easy place, because Jennifer is not willing person to get any of those people off the hook. So it's a tough ride. But if Jennifer basically says, "What did you do to try and help that didn't convince the court that you deserved another chance?" And depending on their answer, and she can be short and sweet, saying, you know, buzz off. Much easier than, yeah, okay. You can stay without going on a ice float down to the Pacific or something. But what she's most likely to say, you deserve everything that the court gave you. If I know Jennifer, she's not forgiving anybody anymore. She was born in a family that didn't have her. She was the product of a nunnery in Ontario and sent with another, I think it was 150 or 250 like her, to Ogdensburg. She was given to or sold to is kind of question mark by the nuns. They don't give much. They always look for money for everything. And the couple who, quote unquote, adopted her was German, taken across Canada down into the U.S., short stop kind of in Oklahoma on the way down. The parents were both teachers. The father was approached by some members of authorities saying, if you don't leave Oklahoma, I think it was, if you don't leave, there's a movement to have you arrested or something to that effect for something you did in school, I guess. And so obviously it must have been right, because her parents packed up right away, went to California, contacted at some religious group's request, contacted the bishop, who provided a birth certificate for Jennifer that made it appear as if she was born in California, and could never have been part of anything like that. You follow the story and you find out that they then have 3 children of their own. Jennifer gets relegated to the role of an adopted kid in a family that wished they hadn't done it. You know? And has to spend her entire life based upon that kind of relationship with her sisters, who considered her to be less than they are. And knowledge that all of her life her father was being paid for having taken Jennifer. That someplace there is a fund that the family lived on and she was deprived of, that is there not from the income of their parents, but from payment for taking Jennifer on the worst life you could get. And the father is accused of having abused her. To what extent, I didn't bother asking. If it's what I believe he had done in Oklahoma or Montana or someplace up there, then it would have been rape of a child. All of her life, she, to the time she was 20 or thereabouts, was miserable. She ends up marrying a guy from a Jewish family who made no decisions in his entire life but followed instructions from his mother. And once she had 2 children, they appropriated the children, and her husband threw her out of the house on the street. She was locked out of any value by a court for the right to have access or to keep her children. She was defended. Her husband was defended in doing what he had done to pass the children on, not pass them on, but say the control over the children would be his parents, with the acquiescence of her own parents, who lived on the verge of an arrest for what they had done to her. She ended up in the hospital. She ended up on the street. She held herself long enough to become a nurse. She is probably the best nurse they ever had, because I'm getting reports from the cell about how Jennifer goes to work and doesn't go home until it's finished, until her role of that day is finished. And everybody else is on a time clock, and as soon as the time comes to go for lunch or go home, they go home, and it's all contained within an 8-hour workday. Whereas I've never heard of Jennifer going home on time. She's got to do all the reports.
Yeah.
As a director of nursing, you have a lot of paperwork. But if you've been a nurse all day in a place where people are trying to hit you in the face or slam you over the head with a chair or what have you, which is a mental institution, not a surprise. 99 people walking down the halls, you're going to have one of them along the way who'll whack you as you're coming by. And then having to sit down and do 2 hours worth of paperwork. You're not going to feel that the world is compassionate.
Yeah.
And that if you were asked your opinion, her response would be cataclysmic. Get rid of all these people. Get rid of anybody in the world who is not ill, but do it for money or power, like nuns, And it was since the cell came on to talk to me that they say our first task was start cleansing paradise. Get everybody who got there based on the recommendations from nuns, and they are mostly nuns, get them out. Make room for reality. Let the cats come. Let the cats come into paradise, and let the cats bring with them the people who deserve to be here, not the people who took them on as pets for the purpose of self-satisfaction. But what are they doing? What did they do for the cats instead of what did the cats do for the person? So I have no excuse for negativity, but I understand where Jennifer is coming from. And the cell understands where she's coming from because it's on their recommendation that I pursued the possibility that we get married. And she has proven to me by her work at the hospital, mostly not hospital, what do they call it? A hospice, not a hospice, mentally handicapped people go there to die.
Mm.
I forget what name they put beside Clearview. You see clearly the entire structure of the world when you look at those 99 people, because she explains to me what this person did or what that, without ever giving me any names, because I'm not allowed to carry that kind of information, but just how things evolve in the place that she has worked. And I'm shocked, basically, that she survived. And she's doing what she's doing now for our sake. Basically, she wants to return here. Mm. She wants to advance the cause of the cats. Mm-hmm. She wants people to be who they say they are and do what they say they'll do. Because she's had none of that all her life. And she says it couldn't have happened unless the farm existed and the cats existed and all of that. Why would I go to Canada except to be with you? If they kill you, I don't want to go to Canada. A bunch of nasty people in Canada, just like our place, just like Los Angeles, you know, everywhere.
Yeah, it's
you know.
Do Neanderthals or Hal or whoever's running the show at this stage, do they know about what they're doing with what happens to people after they die? Do they know about that process?
Yeah.
They know about it?
Yeah.
And they kind of...
it's part of the plan.
Yeah.
Their idea, and I always have that picture in my head. Pre-Ice Age on this side, post-Ice Age on that side, a mountain preventing the people from going from here to there without suffering for thousands of years in the cold, and them, the controllers, going in a tunnel underneath and coming out the other side unscathed. Didn't have a problem. Spent thousands of years, from 24,000 BC to zero, 48,000 years. We spent adding to the tunnel structure underground by people we manufactured underground, and got the personality and the size and everything down pat for how do you clean out a tunnel in only the space you need, because you only have 48,000 years to tunnel the entire planet. If you move 5 feet every day, you're going to do it easily in 48,000 years. You know? So you can expect that everywhere underground there is a connection to the over the top. So they pop up, choose an area, look around the area, saying, how could this part be used? And then they go down and they say, we should have a mountain here or a hill there. And it's just a matter of lighting volcanoes or pushing up pressure to make a bump on the surface, and then they populate it. We are all the product of a laboratory. Worldwide, started in Antarctica when it was green, and has evolved to what you see today, to a whole bunch of divisions of groups of people who will fight against each other to keep busy, you know. War, pestilence, famine, disease, all of that becomes structure. And like any project, things go wrong. Not much, not enough to dislocate the project or redirect the project, but to get people who care in a place they don't want people to care. And there you are. And if somebody had told you that a kid 16 years old would say Glen Kealey, and then you have printed material that comes from Jared and Danny, and somebody had told you that would change your way of thinking, you would have said at the beginning, up yours, it doesn't make sense, you know, that kind of stuff. But it happened. Why? Because creation meant it to be. Creation is the only one with the power to override. And creation is not a person, it's a process. So it's not anything that I do or you do, it's a thing of the group does. Okay? We are tools of the process that's creation is saying, not us. We're not dumb enough to follow this. For the sake of having a bottle of Chivas Scotch instead of a glass of water or a can of Pepsi, you're giving up eternity. You only live 100 minus years out there, and you're not able to think for the first 20 or so, and then you're busy for the next 40. The sooner you get on track and do what needs to be done, the sooner you'll guarantee your arrival at what you wanted to have happen before you die. Here I am, here you are. Here was, guy comes out of Texas, guy comes out of Scotland, a woman comes out who had no money for fare, and Jennifer steps in, sends her here, they get married, they haven't come back, but they cannot erase the fact that they entered a place that thinks differently than the place they reside in or were born in. And it explains some of the problems that they had. But they're young. They got time. Whether or not they take advantage of the situation and do something, or were they only for their self-serving purposes of the life that is offered to people on this planet? I don't know. They don't all leave with a sense of, I got something to do, I want to do something, don't know how, don't know where. They left without any comment about, you know, that I could even point a finger at and say, they care. No idea.
Yeah.
Hoping that down the line someplace as they grow older, they'll think about it. Most of the people, though, that have come here left with, what can I do? You can do whatever it is you think you can do. Because I can't think for you.
Yeah.
All I know is that I have the evidence that creation wants this done. And creation has the power to make it happen. And creation seems to be providing the pieces of the puzzle a little bit at a time, not to make it too easy, I guess. When I see a car arrive that I've never seen before, and out comes a taxi driver who's driven me to town, 50 times or so. Here's lunch, I said, would I have believed that from the taxi rides? No. This is a man whose family owned the taxi business, and he worked there because nothing else that he did succeeded, and he had to earn a living, and so he went to work in the family business. And from everything I heard him say before, I couldn't figure out if he would ever figure it out. And then, the what do you call it? The tractor broke. And when he dropped me off, he came and he looked and he said, yeah, I'll fix it. And he left. Never did anything until about a month and a half later. He came in and said, you got any tires here? Tires? He said, yeah, I need 3 tires. I said, well, if you look around there's some tires on the ground there. What do you want old tires for? Just get them. He gets 3 tires, he puts them down on the ground, takes the tractor, pushes it off, it falls over onto the tires. He looks and says, yeah, belt did something. Then he shoves the tractor back on, and he said, you got the key? Give him the key. Boom, boom, boom. And if you had told me that a month and a half before, that he'd even remember.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet he went away and his brain kept thinking, and finally he said, problem is you can't get at it. It's too heavy, and don't have any equipment like you do at a repair shop, jacks and stuff like that. What else can I get? Somebody said, just put tires. That's it. Missing piece.
I have a question about sales. Because you said you only see sales and they told you earn, that's why you see them. But one day you said would be time for us.
Yeah.
I mean, they told you we gonna see cells?
They didn't tell me. They said there will be other people that will join in what you're doing. And those other people, I imagine, like me, have to have contacts, or they won't have the evidence.
But
It's important that you have evidence before you do something.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, when I came here after 2 days, I said to Andy, I said, I know why I came here. I just want to see cells. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
boom, you know,
Yeah.
the light in the tunnel. It's like, yeah, I know.
I can only give you my story,
Yeah.
but someday, somehow, your position will prove to have been only a beginning. That there's a next step and the next step with always thinking in between. That's why I started reading books one chapter at a time. A chapter is an opinion.
Yeah.
And in the opinion, if you read the next chapter, you forget part of the
Exactly.
first
That's what I'm
opinion and
doing.
everything. So get the opinion, walk away.
I have
Yeah.
all
I just,
marks. Well, the most important thing.
I just want to check in case the person calling would be Robin.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about her. She said she would do something today.
Yeah. I forgot to take seats from the room. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go this way.
It's the taxi driver.
I thought actually it is him. You say about him nice stuff. That's why it's. You say about him nice stuff, like he came, he fixed. That's why the energy just go there. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Ray. Hey, Ray, I've got a seminar going on. Can we put off our discussions till midweek? Okay. Call me on Wednesday morning. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll talk to you Wednesday. Okay, thanks. Bye. Okay, bye. Yeah, I forgot that he calls me on Sundays when he works. It's not usual that he works Sundays, but he told me last week that he was working today, and I usually talk to him on Wednesdays.
Oh.
So I forgot. And then the other one is Robin, but I don't think she has made any contact here.
She wouldn't work on a Sunday though, would she?
Probably not. Monday is more likely. Yeah. I forgot to light my fire too.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Safe and sound. Pepsi. Is there a Pepsi in the house?
No Pepsi?
I got some in the fridge. Keep it from freezing. Because it's warmer in the fridge than it is in the kitchen. Anyways.
Interesting, he rang when we were talking.
Right?
If we were talking about him and then he rings as well.
Yeah.
Taxi driver, he must have.
Yeah.
No. I was going to ask you about what you know about gold.
What I know about gold
Yeah.
comes from outer space.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it's used a lot in the Anunnaki story.
Yeah.
You remove the L, and that's God.
Yeah.
And it's also, from what I've read, an intricate ingredient for genetic engineering.
Yeah.
So I've always wondered whether why did they, what's your understanding of
Well, gold was at one time the ultimate of power, symbol of power, because it was heavy.
yeah.
It was least likely to be pilfered
Yeah.
by the workers around it. But when you, I'm trying to remember, when you think of the origin of gold and how it's found in mines today, what is the factory? What is the process by which gold is made from the place it's found? And there is no answer in that. The answer is it's a product of the Big Bang. It is, in all sense, a mine which contains only gold. The whole planet is gold, and it travels through space, and pieces can break off and hit a planet like Earth, and you believe that it started there, but it really came from up there. They know for a fact today, now, at this time, where that gold is, where that planet or big rock that's only gold, where it is, and they are afraid somebody would bring it, capture it in some way and bring it down as a whole, which would destroy the entire economy of the world, because everything is based on gold.
Yeah.
So, but in reality, gold is a problem to the people who want to be considered the wealthiest of all people, because of the fact that it's heavy, that you can trade it in for diamonds, for example, and a diamond in gold save a lot of space in your pocket because you're stealing it from one country to another. However, the world gold supply is controlled by India. Everything in India, every ceremony, everything has always been revolving around gold, and gold has has moved off of wherever it is and made its way over time, that India, one of the poorest supposed countries in the world, has more gold than the entire world combined. And they're moving it. It's on its way to Brazil. And that indicates that they know something is going to happen to India, that access has to be in South America, in a Portuguese-speaking country where everybody else around them are Spaniards. And so there's a safety in less numbers, if you will. And when I was looking at the picture of the brain being Antarctica, and coming off to South America is this extension of what you would normally expect at the bottom of a brain. And it's basically fits with the concept that Brazil is going to be the heart of the future, while Antarctica is the brain of the future. And to be the heart, they're making sure that all their resources are being moved there. Is there a specific thing you need to know about the use of gold?
Yeah.
As I say, it was used for, from what I've read, it was for genetic engineering.
Yeah.
And I was just curious as to whether or not that was, whether you came across a similar.
There are some specific things contained in gold that make it appropriate to specific other things that they don't talk about.
Yeah.
You see, like example, gold they use in to be for moisturizing mask for face because make you younger.
Yeah.
They have something, because even they make like liquor alcohol with gold inside, because when you're drinking it with the gold, it's also from inside have kind of benefits for your body. Then there have to be something, but they do not say what.
They don't.
It's
They
a
don't
secret.
say exactly what, but there have to be something, because even they have the different theory about about the Anunnaki, like they say. What they say about them. They came here to the earth because they want gold, because their planet actually has kind of like ozone hole, and it's dying because and they need the gold to make dust to fill the hole. Then it's something important about life.
That's what I was trying to say. Like I know it's something. And you never really know exactly what it is, I guess, or maybe you will. But like, I just kind of was curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah. All I know is the gold is being considered valuable around the world, and the actual holding of the gold is on a movement to India for the last couple of 100 years. And over the last 20 years, it's being extracted secretly. It's not discussed in public. Secretly, and being brought to Brazil. And Brazil is a country which is mostly contained within the continent, and things around it, and a language different from all the people around them, Portuguese, who were the first explorers, basically. If you look at trying to circumvent the world, you go to south to Antarctica in the south and all of that, we hear that it's Spaniards, but Portuguese were Spaniards. It's a separatist movement, when you have a separatist movement like Quebec or Portugal, there's a knowledge on a specific thing that they have that they're not sharing.
Yeah.
You know, and Quebec um, has much of the same circumstances as Brazil does. It's inside the country, different language, access to the oceans is limited. So coming to attack them always ends up in some kind of deal rather than overriding them. So they were given their space in Canada, but the Anglophones overran them everywhere else with the help of European, Swiss, and German, Scots. Nova Scotia is Scotland, New Brunswick is German. Base. Today it has a mixture of people, but the base is a different European country that created it. Russians in the north, Alaska and northern British Columbia. If you travel to a place like California, there hardly are any visible Caucasians on the street. The Asian part has been removed, and they're all pricks, so that's why they call them Caucasians. So that's the reputation we have around the world, is that we're the bastards of the world. You know? And the Indians told me that too, that the way they see white people is not the way they see Asians or Africans or whatever. They said these people come to take. You know? They come to take, and they've gone and done that everywhere they went. And that's when we got into the discussion of beginning of mankind and stuff like that, and became evident that they think life began here, on not necessarily this spot, but Ontario, and everything they say wouldn't fit the known world, or the colors of the people or anything. They're brown. You got to look for where brown people came was India, okay, and Sri Lanka, the southern part that broke off, is more than likely that area that separated from Africa and became the second place. And that's why the mountain most likely to have been used for genetic engineering in the Himalayas is called K2, second mission. In Africa, it's more a mountain in the area of Kenya, where the people who became Hindus came from. I'm trying to think of the name of the mountains there, but they stretch over the border with other countries around, but that's probably where genetic engineering was established prior to the Ice Age.
Okay.
And everything is linked, but everything's a secret. So You have to wait until you find the right book, the right mention, the right thing.
Yeah. Do you know the TED?
Yeah,
Yeah, the people talk about something
TED
science.
Talks.
TED talks.
It's
TED
just
Talks. No.
Yeah. Okay. There is something like in USA. I discovered this year, and they always invited people who talk about everything, just new science. You know what they discover in an experiment, everything. And there was a guy who was actually talking about some people from actually Africa, and they always he say like was like this kind of where they are from, and they say they came from highlands,
Yeah.
from the from the mountain.
Yeah.
Never just like they from the east. Always the new total different. And what he said, that everyone around they've been dark color and they've been white. And then from mountains. I was like, okay. Always they say that. They never say that from different continents. Never.
If you're underground for 48,000 years and you're pushing up stuff, what you would feed through that would be the ones you made there. So
that's kind of confirm what you're saying. There's in the mountain, and then every time it's like they're from mountains.
they have it in
Like,
movies
what?
as well. They always come from a volcano or something,
Yeah.
and cats are always
Yeah.
used to represent something otherworldly as well.
think of a flying saucer.
Yeah,
If you're going to come out of the ground, then the vehicle you have to have can't have a runway.
yeah,
It has to rise.
yeah.
Flying saucers, the first ones made, come from down there, and they come out. They travel and they learn things from the lab up there. They add it. They have more knowledge than anybody else. So the closest to what they have below has to have been fed to them through the gray nuns or blue nuns, somebody who's gathering up stuff all the time.
Yeah.
All the award shows are basically done not for the person. They couldn't care less about an actor or a writer. It's being done about information that fills a hole in the data that they have.
Yeah.
And when that information comes in, the person gets a Nobel Prize, for example. These physicists are not working for us. As a matter of fact, most of the things they come up with, which basically are true and provide an answer, they have no idea basically exactly how this is going to be used. But when you put it in the context of all the information ever devised from all time leading back to 80,000 BC, and you put a piece of physical data in, or quantum mechanics down to the particle, you're starting at the beginning. And if it fits someplace, it may open the door to a whole bunch of other pathways you're going to take. Particles, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody knew what a particle was. What we considered to be the smallest thing in the world was an atom.
Yeah.
But a particle is a subdivision of a subdivision of a subdivision. And you know what they've just proven is you can be in two places at the same time. Okay? Whether it makes sense to you, quantum physics, tells you that if you divide something down to its lowest common denominator, which is a particle, and you send a particle down a laser going in one direction where it will hit a split in the wall. The particle divides in two, even though it's the smallest thing we know, divides in two, and one goes in one direction, the other one goes in the other direction. Now, you change particles by observing them, not by doing anything, but just by observing them. So when you observe only one of the halves, the other half knows immediately, no matter if it was on another planet. Okay? So you have to revise when you start thinking about, particles. Prove that if you knew all the rules of the game leading up to us, you can be in two places at the same time. In other words, you can be alive and you can be dead at the same time. You're dead from former life, you're alive in the current life, and both can act on the same information. And that's what the cell is. They're people who have lived and died, and they're acting on information that I'm having to deal with today. So I am me, a human being, but I'm also a cell prior to accepting a division of the roles that put me here. And one day I'll be back in a possibility of being in another life, should I choose. Same with you. There is a concept that is undeniable, and that is everything we know and have been taught is not true. Everything. Because we start off at the wrong place. We don't start at the beginning. We start after a whole bunch of things have happened. Right? And if you're talking about just this universe, you're talking about 13.8 billion years or so. That's a long time for us. But for creation, that's just another job. You know? Our planet, we think of it as, imagine it's so different. Yeah, there's trillions of them out there. What do? We cannot see quantum. We cannot hear quantum. We cannot feel quantum. But it's everywhere. So how can something be everywhere that you can't see? Well, it's too small. Too small. It's where does it all begin? You got to go back to the Big Bang or, a singularity. If you go underground just on this planet and you arrive at a point where pressure is so dense and so much power is applied to something, you squeeze it into a diamond. How much material did you have that made that diamond? Even if it's, the size of my fingertip, it took immense space when it was out there as minerals and earth and what have you that got squeezed down to that size. nobody would deny the existence of a diamond today, but they wouldn't understand that what they're carrying on their ring removed from the planet a whole bunch of stuff that ended up making that diamond.
Yeah. I have actually a few questions about the cells because I didn't
Yeah.
finish. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just really bothering me kind of thing. Because I have some information from you and I read as well and just try to figure out this all together. You said the Jennifer would be the 27th cell.
Of this group.
Yeah, of this group. Because that's your cells.
Yeah, that's with this task.
But she never seen them.
No, never saw him. Is waiting for the opportunity, but she never saw it. She was just told by me, who had been told by them, that she is considered to be the 27th.
Because everyone has own cells.
Yeah.
As memory.
Every task has a group working at it. And this is one task here. Try to overturn the earth.
Is Jennifer it doesn't bother her? She hasn't seen them yet?
It is not her.
Because I'm kind of,
It's not her preference.
Yeah, not her preference.
No. I said, some of this, Jennifer, is they have made me the intermediary between them and you. And the reasoning behind that is that you don't believe anything about a possibility of change. And they want you to know that that is irrelevant. What you believe is irrelevant. It's what you will learn that's relevant. And what you believe is based on lies of all the teachings of the world. And at this stage of the game, like Glen can't talk to other people that are dead until it goes through a process. You can't talk to other people until you have come to terms with the fact that Glen knows what he's talking about. And you need some of that as medicine to your lifestyle to date, to all the problems you've had. You need to have something that says there are people in the world who care. And Glen is going to be your example. But here we are 4 years later in 2014, where you're still saying, I want the information from the cell. And I keep repeating, you're getting the information from the cell. The only difference between me and them is you haven't seen them, but I've heard them and they told me this. I can't make the cell decide that your turn has arrived. I suspect you have to be here for all of the pressures that they seem to be putting on me and other things. The guy that is supposed to be the intermediary didn't do his job, and his name is Gord Brown, and he was the politician responsible for your area, and he's now dead because he died in his office of a heart attack. Now, if if he had done his job, he wouldn't be dead. But Glen had to do his job for him under the limitations of not being in charge of anything. Okay? The guy that came by, I don't know if you saw pictures of the farm on TV, on whoever it is that took pictures from satellites and put them on TV. Those two cars were here. Okay? The two cars are located where the tent is there. And the guy in City Hall comes to this place, the boss of the municipal bylaws. Now, you don't come to this place by accident. You have somebody is guiding you with a purpose. And he stands out there and he said, you can't have that. Can't have cars like that. If they don't have a current license plate, you can't have them. And I said, I need my things where I've put my things. And he said something about, there's a law, and blah, 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 there's a law. And Mr. Peterson, I will do what I will do when the time comes. You think that? And you came 2 or 3 times. He died on October 1st at the age of 52 in his office at the City Hall.
Funny someone died, but this is funny, like a coincidence.
So, the cell says, the people will learn over time or they won't be there. Do they want to see it one at a time, or would they prefer cataclysmic activity to occur? But one way or the other, they'll know.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they just keep dropping. And this is not new for me to the farm. I was 30 years old, and people that argued about things that didn't make any sense, it's kind of dropped dead. That's the end of the argument.
Let's make sure.
In those days, I used to argue, and I wish I wouldn't have had to argue with Mr. Peterson, but I did. And he just follows like everybody else. That if you don't believe, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
If you don't believe, do something else that helps people. I have no problem with that. Just go away.
The best, because it's not like you say what your experience. Yes, you had. We didn't have that experience. All and actually, you live longer than us, and
Twice as long.
then it's like kind of that's new information, new understanding, and it's difficult. But we know you only one person who gave us the all answer we had in our life.
Yeah.
Well,
I got.
And the same, like I can't just prove you wrong.
Yeah. I got instructions.
But
That's what I'm to do.
I can help you because this is how I feel. I can do. Yeah, you're right.
I have no purpose in keeping information from the cell. My role is anybody will listen. They can't talk to them, but I can. So I do. And I can tell you sometimes, a long time, you feel that it's useless because it never happens. But every 4 years, something changes that I've had in my life. Every 4 years is like, okay, you did the work, now the answer is next thing, move jobs, go get a different job, and start the process again. All I know is that a lot of people younger than me are dying.
And you're still okay outside living here.
Well, what doesn't kill you, as they say, makes you stronger. So you should be stronger, stronger than anyone. I wanted to ask if you knew what the date roughly on the timeline when Neanderthals were frozen, because there was a suggestion.
You got to remember, there's no calendars when this is happening.
Yeah, like
So
the calendar based on, I guess.
Academic.
Yeah, you know, our current understanding then of a calendar.
Ice Age.
Yeah, pre-Ice Age. Like, because the reason I'm asking is because if it contributed, from what I've heard, to their single-mindedness, that would have been. Is that before Clan Mothers or before? You know,
Well,
I'm
first
just trying
of
to figure
all,
out where that fits.
There has to be males and females in what you're asking, the timeline.
Males and females kind of are irrelevant. It's more to do with where that fits in with the singular way of looking at things, which is kind of what all the problem is that they're just so single-minded that they've lost sight of
the bigger
picture. And it's like, so where does this event where they were instantaneously freeze, because there is evidence out there.
It still exists. This past we have that is not Caucasian in influence is in tribes all over the world have different approach, different knowledge, but they didn't stop doing things, if I can put it that way. Think of it this way. If you only have 1 million people, and those 1 million people think one way, hunter foraging, and then next to them you put 10 million who don't think that. Their opinion goes from 100% down to 9 or 8% of the group. Now, if you add 20 million more with a different opinion, their original opinion goes down. But they're all still there. There are hunter-gatherers in the world. There are people who do just gathering in the world. There are people who do hunting. They're just irrelevant to the bigger picture because their numbers are not strong enough to influence anybody. Okay? The change, if I am to look back on everything I know, 80,000 BCE, if they had a calendar going that way, that is the critical role from being another animal to being a human being. Not always in appearance, not distributed equally throughout the world, but a beginning of a change, a movement. I believe that the first males were created in 80,000 BC. The females had existed before them for what I believe to be 50,000 years. So going back to 130,000 years. But how many millions of years before did hermaphrodite women grow in stature as opposed to other animals, and became ready to launch a process. Is it hundreds of thousands of years? Is it millions of years? I don't think billions would fit the process, but you never know. But at 80,000 years, you had a concept that existed of egg and sperm, and the coming together of the last pieces that were required to bring us in this direction. 40,000 years BC, 2,000 years after I was born, there is a laboratory level of knowledge about genetic engineering. I having been one of them, or the only one, I don't know. All that I've been told is that if you were talking in today's language, you'd say, you were born in a petri jar or petri glass as one of two people, and it was decided to extract you and turn you into a life being, hanging on to the other person in the concept of a twin or something for 14 years, so that you would have a head start in preparing this. Now, if somebody can do that in a lab, in 42,000 BC, when did it begin? You had to have men, you had to have women. So 80,000 to 40,000 was the learning process of genetic engineering. 42,000, 2,000 years before the end, just like we're 2,000 years after zero, would have been the trial period type of thing. And here we are. The information I have always leads me back to 80,000, 42,000, zero, but they use a different chart, because what they're talking about is the Ice Age as being critical, and what they're saying is you go in 24,000, you reach the top of the Ice Age in 16,000, so it's 8,000 years that way, and you come back 8,000 years that way, so you're at 8,000 BC after leaving at 24,000, back at 8,000. And there at 8,000 BC becomes what they call the final 10,000. 8,000 BC, you see what happened. You start looking around, people are gathering in villages, people are building militaries. The most and only important weapon in a military is food. You know, much more important than a hammer or a gun, because if you're 1,000 miles from home and you don't have food, you're going to be dead. You know, so just a matter of time. So agriculture didn't come out because they wanted to feed families. It came out because they wanted to feed military. And then they kind of figured out that food is a weapon of war. Withhold it. You know, gather it and withhold it.
Yeah.
Force people to do things they wouldn't do if they can't go hunting and gathering because there's a military stopping them from doing it.
Yeah.
And all of the things are just one thing after another to lead us to a bunch of white people, different from all the rest of them we got in the world, is going to appear. You can't do that in Iran. You can't do it in India. You can't do it in Africa because somebody is going to say, look what he's doing. So you got to find a place where 7,000, 8,000 years ago you sent people to check out, call them aboriginals if you want, and they went over and they said, yeah, there is an appropriate place. We call it the Great Lakes, but they probably had some other name. And we think if you're going to make a race, most of the aboriginals live west of there, while the east is almost empty of anything except animals. So if you get a few aboriginals to show you the way in a place we today call Ontario, you will have access to pathways on water from that northern hiding space down to the Gulf of Mexico. And then you can take them across North Africa and into the Middle East, not just one or two or three, but maybe 100,000 or 200,000, and stick them all in the same place, and people will say they're different, you know. And this group is being assigned a task which we will fund. Anything they need, you know, like gloves in winter or whatever, we will provide so that they are, in fact, able to do the task at hand. Now, the task began 8,000 BC on the way out of the Ice Age. We're now getting ready for not preparation, now it's action. You got 2,000 years to do what needs to be done. Do it. Anytime you run into difficulties, we'll step in and make something happen that will change the circumstances. People in charge of militaries at the time, politicians today, bureaucrats from the city hall, are just things that make things happen. You don't want to do it, get out of the way. Don't want to get out of the way? Goodbye. Thank you. Next. That's the way I feel they act. You know? So they have determined that I sit in a field and look at that tree. And the tree is repeating to me, I was put here because they didn't need me. What they needed was those things over there, hardwood trees. And we wouldn't be here today had the wind that comes across here hit them while they were small, because they would have broken. And you're here for the same purpose. You're here because you provide a basic understanding that the rest on the other side are being protected from destruction if they understand the purpose of the cover. Okay? You're not responsible any more than I, as a fir tree, am responsible for a maple tree or an oak tree. You know, you're responsible with giving it a chance, and that's what I do. Is if I'm the only one that got the information, I am not the type of person who will say that makes me important. What it says is that gives me a responsibility that I understand. They're not asking me to do something that I have no concept of. And they say, you know, look at the fir tree. And I talk to the fir tree, and it's my feeling that this tree can talk to that tree. And that tree can talk to that tree.
Yeah.
And together they form a military, which Jennifer says that's the concept of the movie
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah. The trees participate in the change that needs to happen. So we know what the past is, roots. Every place I dig, I have to be careful of the roots because I don't want to take away from the tree. And there are no trees back there, so you didn't encounter the same thing. But this side, boy, it was some job getting around roots. Anyways, that's clones. Now it starts dropping things on my head. And that's cones, not clones. Out went the L. Okay? There is no L. No L, no L. I mean, if you don't have that song in your head, you weren't born anywhere close by.
No, I didn't have because I'm from Poland.
Yeah.
You're not part of the plan though for the next new language.
Yeah. Here it's a recording, you know, that you heard from the minute you heard another person. So you start looking at the alphabet and saying, Noel has an L. If there is no L, you remove the L, what are you left with? You're left with one. No way. N-O-E. O-N-E. Number 2 is number 1. Yeah. So, trees, plants, vegetation, no different than ants, bats, rats, bats, and cats.
Yeah.
It's just the material might be different, but the concept is always the same. They follow a pattern put out by creation, which itself is a process, not a person. Yeah. So, single tree is not important in the long run. You need a congregation of trees in order to get what the next step is. And the next step for us was governments, militaries, and farmers, and everything that provides cover and capabilities to go on a mission. We were not Caucasians born to be where we were born. We are born to be explorers. We are born to if you believe our leadership, to conquer. And we have lived that period. And we're now at the end. What happens at the end? Well, either you change what you were originally made to be, or you die and go and sit in paradise or hell, or whatever you want to call it. But you will have failed at grasping the bigger picture. Not always of your own volition, your own fault, but of the fact that you're a human being and have been brainwashed from life, beginning. Jennifer is that example. What Jennifer is angry about is she was chosen to be the model for everything that goes badly, on purpose, planned. She was made to pay the price, and that's why she's being compensated at the end by being the sole person who can change the sentence provided by a court. As a thank you for all the pain. Me, pain was not part of my lifestyle. Me, it was, why are they speaking a language that causes them to hate me? Why? When I was a kid, I was French. The guys across the street didn't speak to French people. As a matter of fact, I went out and I spoke to one guy and he hit me in the face. He pretended to be on my side and then he threw a punch, hit me right in the face. I said, what is it? And here I am, 79 years old in January, and the same kind of things is happening by a guy like Peterson. I said, you have enough work in Kempville to deal with. Why did you have to sneak out 10 miles in the country to find me and cause me stress? Go away. And he comes back the next time, he's got a kid with him. And are you teaching your son to be as miserable a bastard as you are? And Jennifer came out and gave him hell too.
Watch how it's done.
Back in the car. Is that what this is all about?
It's like big joke,
Yeah. Anyways, I'm approaching 80. 79 will be in 2020. But I am approaching 80. And I expect to live to be 133, but the entire structure of the world says that ain't going to happen. So it becomes a matter of making certain that what I have learned is learned by others. And you two, for reasons known to creation but suspected by me, are part of the next team. If not the next team, part of the next team. So if you're the next team, there's no other people. You don't get to sit down for a week or two and say, I was hoping to get this circle done before the winter and couldn't see it happening. And there you are, you come in, done. That's what it's all about. You will have your turn, and I'm not telling you because I have been told. I'm telling you because everything that has been told to me has no other conclusion than I live a certain period of time, and then you live a certain period of time, and then somebody else will live a certain period of time. And in those 3 generations, the world will be overturned. Mm. That it's not what physically you do, it's what other people will adapt to once they figure out that the world they've lived in is finished. Mm. The world of a bureaucrat going out of his way to give a citizen shit 20 miles from town in the middle of the bush for parking cars 20 feet from where is legally acceptable or something. I don't know. I didn't ask. I just, when it came time for me to put up the tent and everything, that was the time to move the cars. So what I do, I stand on the side of the road and I wait. And eventually a tractor comes by and says, hey, hey, hey. And he stops. And he went to the corner, came back. I said, I got two cars, don't run. They need to be tugged away. Would you do that? I'll pay you. He said, sure. And he drove in. An hour later, the 2 cars are over there, and I got the space for the tent. And I said, what do I owe you? He said, $25. I said, come on, you spent an hour, you got a tractor to pay $25. Here's $50, 25 each. And he said, thank you. I just got 2 kids, and thank you. You did what creation wanted today. And he left, and I haven't spoken to him since. I wave at him every now and then when he goes by, and he hasn't come back and asked, is there anything else? But as long as you're fair and not like the gang around here would argue, if somebody gave them $1 million, they'd say that's not enough, doesn't cover my cost. This guy was an hour, $25. If you're fair, you'll have people who are fair later. Mm. It never comes from the ones you've helped. It comes later from unexpected sources. Okay? But it doesn't matter. It's a matter that creation has a plan. And the plan has been going on for 80,000 years at least. And this is a time for change. And when the change comes, it'll be because of what I did, based on what other people did, to hand it over to people who will do in the future.
Well, I got most of my understanding from just spending a lot of time listening to the talks, which, as you say, Jared and Dana took the time to put up. So I have to thank them for being able to learn through that way, because I like to listen to things personally, firsthand ideally, but if not, then just a recording. So
we build on the past. Yeah. None of us is looking for an applause. We're just looking for progress. Stop doing what you're doing and do it differently. You'll understand later that this was the only path. Here we are.
Yeah, and they always always say, if you want the success, repeat what every day everyone is doing. It's just like, you know, it's go back to the system, but you're gonna have money for this. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, business. I'm talking about business. When now women in the power, you know, I try to be in this. I think I'm gonna do this as well, but a different way to earn money to come here. Actually, you know, this is my purpose. But you know how the last few years I just, you know, listen what they saying, and this is nothing else like another religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing else, because you have every year meeting, you know, emotion, you know, oh, it's so great, you know, someone just, you know, achieved something, and I know this. It's like, I can't stand this even watching. You know what I mean? I've been part of this, like, you know, when I was Jehovah's Witness when I was a teenager. When I was like, it's exactly the same way.
It's the same process
Everything.
everywhere.
Everything. It's like religion. It's a it's a religion. It's a you know, business. It's any groups or
Military
whatever.
association.
Yes.
Whatever.
It's always the same pattern, the same thing, and always playing on emotion. Emotion is something what they just they actually, I think they're perfect, you know. They just achieved it like
It's funny, your parents kind of want, like, my mum can only define my success based on that process.
You're not famous
like,
now.
yeah,
You're not money.
you could sell a song and then you'd be famous, and then people will know that I had a son who's famous, and then we could get more money.
I have a need now for something that I take as an example of my greatest pleasure in life. Today, under the circumstances I live, that's a Pepsi. I'm going to go to the house and get a Pepsi. Can I get you a Pepsi?
No, thank you.
No,
I
thank
don't
you.
like Pepsi.
Yes, please.
You want one?
Oh,
Yes.
you like sweets.
I do like sweet stuff.
I shall return in a few minutes.
In Canada, there is no Coca-Cola, isn't it? In Canada, there is only Pepsi, not Coca-Cola.
Oh, there is Coke, but I banned Coke
Why?
because it's too sweet.
I always thought that Pepsi is too sweet.
Pepsi has a bang to it. It kind of rumbles all the way down your belly button,
Yeah.
brews along the way.
Okay. Did you know?
Still going?
Huh?
It's still going?
Why?
Oh.
I checked out. But
Pause it.
yeah, because it's still memory.
You like the Canadian dry?
Yeah,
I really like that.
Canada Dry.
Canada's that dry. That is cold.
Feels cool, eh?
Yeah.
For being in a fridge with no hydro. It keeps it cool. replaces the scotch I used to drink.
Yeah. Yeah, big drinking problem in the UK. We binge drink in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
In like Italy and France, the kids will have little glasses and they drink it responsibly. And then in the UK, we work Monday to Friday,
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah.
They get like, I used to do it. I used to get really drunk.
Yeah. I had the same kind of time. Too much booze, but the only place I could learn in those years was other salespeople who would never tell you anything until they had a few beers in them. And then you sit around the table and you get the hints you need. Mind you, consequences of having to get home after and all of that stuff. So I think I was
Oh, wow. Choppers.
in my 40s when I decided, you know, I've done this, done it, forget it, it's not going to be helpful, and I stopped drinking. But Pepsi not only gives me similar pleasures, it helps me digest.
Oh, really?
And with the hernia, what happens is gas builds up. Gas that has no activity to it; it just blocks. You put a Pepsi in, it's like sending a military group into the field, and it destroys all of that gas that's there and allows things to flow. A Pepsi, I'm lying on my back for a couple of hours, and in the morning I feel totally relieved. The closer I get to nighttime, the more the gases are at work, stopping me from doing what I want to do. But I've arranged my day in such a way that I do send Jennifer off to work till 10 o'clock, and then from 10 to 12 do physical work, such as you did here, digging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cut back what I used to do, which was sometimes dig all day,
Really?
and then I'd really be sore at night.
Yeah.
So I cut it back to time frames depending on how I feel. Sometimes it's half an hour, 40 minutes. Sometimes it's 2 hours, but never, 6 hours like I used to do.
Yeah.
And feed the cats in the morning at usually 7 o'clock. Feed the goats after feeding the cats. Get back in time for Jennifer to get up, because she gets up at 5 in the morning, her time, so it's 8 my time here. We've been on the phone all night. We don't hang up.
Yeah.
When she comes home from work, she calls, and the phone just is on. If she's doing something, I'm doing something, we can hear the phone. The bell hangs up, regular, middle of our talks, bell hangs up. Just call back until it comes back on.
Yeah.
And next day is the same, except Wednesdays and Thursdays are days off, so I got to go to the laundry with her. Go shopping for groceries for the week the same way as I did here.
Well, hopefully Robin can kind of help with just back and forth, and maybe even if she wants to put her energies into something.
Robin is going to be an interesting
I kind of don't
person.
see her as a trouble.
No. And what I can understand is that Sue, who is an OPP, has to know what the OPP have done. Okay? Kidnapped Jennifer is part of what they've done, but, stop me from stopping hydro from cutting trees and all of that stuff. And she shows absolutely no sign that what I'm doing is not right. Yes. What can I do to help? So I don't know if I'm going down a path and will be surprised at the end that she was doing it on orders from the OPP. I don't know.
The file she reads on you, though, is going to be their interpretation of events, though, isn't it? It's going to be so, their interpretation is anything that benefits them. So,
but their opinion seems to have changed in the last 6 months or so. And,
of you?
Of me.
Yeah, okay.
But I think the event that got them thinking was the people who came and said the animals were not being taken care of. And they had to come and check the goats. And the police stood there, and there was police women and men. There were about 6 or 8 there. Make sure that I didn't interfere. And the events evolved in a way that I was watching their faces when they said there's nothing wrong with the goats. And then, oh, but look, there's an old animal over there. I don't know exactly what it is. And I had a sense the police were saying, we've been suckered. We've been had.
Wasted that time.
And they kill an animal because it's old and leave it in the field. And the police left here kind of heads down.
Yeah.
And I think they probably went back and wrote something on the file. Didn't act upon it. Could have stopped it. Didn't do it. But once they went back and thought about it, whatever it is they wrote would have changed the direction of the next people that came on site. And since it has occurred more than once, that the wording is always the same. We come because of a complaint filed by some unknown person, because they wouldn't tell me ever who it is, because I think they even made it up themselves.
Yeah.
So
I just need an excuse.
In Scotland, if they can't tell you. No, if someone, call you, you have to give their name, surname, everything, but they're not gonna tell you. You can find out if you go to the court or something like that, but they can't, yes.
Well, because you might.
Because I can get
angry and
revenge or something like that,
It's obviously political.
Yeah, I know this is like kind of,
Obviously political, and they're protecting either an idiot or a truth that they've invented. I don't know. But they're not the same. And certainly, I have difficulties in believing that an OPP car is used to come here and deliver food.
It sounds kind of
Yeah.
That's very strange, yeah.
No, they just came to give me food.
Yeah. Try to convince any stranger that the police come and give you food.
Oh, the police are kind of like the tree,
Yeah.
protection for the woman that's giving you the food.
Maybe you should make some like official thank you for police. The people will believe.
Yeah. Well, be thankful for whatever it is that got her going. It may be as simple as she doesn't like her father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever her father would have done as a senator, she wants to do different.
Well, that's a lot of times how daughters get their revenge on the father is to date the guy or to see the guy who's the opposite of. That they usually do that.
She sounds nice. Actually, kind of looks like warm person.
Yeah.
But Robbie is not. It's not. I don't trust any social worker. I know how in Scotland it works, and I said no. They're terrible people.
Yeah.
Well, she could be accountable for anything that happens, and that could just be the motivation that it's like she doesn't want to have that accountability. Well, what did you do then?
Yeah.
Oh, and then she's in trouble. So it's not. It's kind of. I don't know. Maybe I've similar experiences with social workers. They kind of. They're all similar type of people.
Social worker.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know about that. I've just working in health and social care. The care workers were at the bottom of the pile, and the social workers were kind of these people that came in, and they just always didn't understand the situation. They never listened.
Yeah.
That's what my experiences were. That was 5 years working with people like that.
Yeah,
And then if you do
people
clinical
who-
psychology, you're kind of above them, and so there's this hierarchy everywhere, isn't there? And
Yeah.
they fit in with it. They fit into that hierarchy somewhere.
Yeah, but they kind of always get the interview with you. You know. How do you know who are you? You know, how can you come here? Like, oh, there's someone they look after, and they see someone else, then they kind of interview everyone. You know, it's if you want to help, they're great, but you know, you don't have to know everything about the other people.
It all goes into a computer someplace.
Yeah.
And all gets reported down the line or up
Yeah.
the line.
Like she asked me like, oh, you know from online? I said no. Yeah, I know where you're going, and I said no. I said through the friends from USA, but we met them online. But online, I know
Yeah.
twice. Like you know what I mean? Just you don't give me the proper answer. No, I'm not gonna give you because I know where you're going. You know. You know, have to know everything.
They kind of want to know whether there's something's going to happen here, and they want to know if.
But
it's
this is
what's
not their
it gonna
business.
be.
That's the point.
I know, but like.
That's why I say they like spy. They have to know the social workers. I know a few people who in Scotland who are work as social workers, and the people give up this job because it's really heavy. You know, it's very. It's not easy, but those people who I know, they have to know everything.
Yeah.
In private life, this is kind of spies. They use information against
They don't like doing much work as well. The
No,
ones I met,
no.
They don't. They always get somebody to do the work. But Jennifer must have had experience with social workers.
Yeah. Doesn't think much of them. Jennifer is the most fearsome person when it comes to anybody linked to government. Anybody linked to government have to have, as a minimum, a job based upon what they did or who they are. That's her attitude, and she doesn't give anybody credit for having the possibility of changing or being changed. And when I told her, I said, and this one's father was a senator. She says, I remember back in 2002 when they wanted me to go to a motel, or they would not give me money for housing when my money had run out. And there was a plan to do me in. And the plan was run out of Canada. And one of the senators was this one. Her father was in on a plan to kill me.
Wow.
So I said, I can't tell you any different. All I can tell you is maybe the daughter knows. Maybe the daughter doesn't agree. So
It's not her father, she's a daughter.
yeah,
Different person, then you can't blame children. You can watch them, yes, because you don't know, maybe she's like her father, but it doesn't seem like so far. Let's see. And then
there were 3 people that were named at the time by the cell, and I'm pretty sure his name was brought up. And of course, if you're the senator and you're dealing in a community, you live in a community, you're dealing from there, and that community is Brockville, and the mayor has been elected 3 times. Well, obviously the senator and the mayor know each other. And then all of a sudden you have a daughter of the senator and a daughter
They're
of
friends.
the mayor.
it looks like, maybe they're friends.
Yeah.
Old friends from childhood. The same party.
Yeah. Maybe things are changing. You got to give them an opportunity to show, are they themselves or are they follow up on their fathers? But when they're asked the question of the cell, can you find her father, the mayor, they came back and said yes. And I said, can you get a sense of the relationship between him and the daughter? And the first words I heard in the background were pumpkin. And when I was a kid, that was a name some people used to name children. And the message that was sent to me at the time was, tell Robin that her dad did not get elected 3 times by delegating and walking away. I got elected by delegating and watching what everybody did when they were assigned a task, and I made certain they knew I was. And if she's there to help, which he's apparently said that I believe she is, because she's that type of person, then she should do the same thing. If she's in a position of delegating to another group, such as victim services or whatever, don't give them 2 days. Just make sure they know you're there. So I told her, I said, whether you believe this or not, this is the message. And since then, she's been sending me messages. Did you get a phone call from this person, which is about the 4th or 5th person that's supposed to come and visit from victim services? None of them ever do. None of them ever come. And I said, no. I placed a phone call because she had made an appointment and didn't come, didn't call. So Robin sent a message and said, that's terrible, Gwen. Apparently she's not available until Monday, but be sure I'll call on Monday morning and find out exactly why and let you know. So I know that Robin is doing her share of the work, but facing a bureaucracy.
Exactly.
I asked her to try and find out who pays for victim services. Who gives them their salary? She told me that she didn't know, but she'd find out. We live in this prison where everything has to be sent out and wait. And most of the time, there's nobody else that gets the definition of the word timely. We'll do it next week, next month, next year. You know. But if you're thinking of somebody who's contacting you, their schedule is not next week. It's, when can you get this done today? You get paid a salary at the other end for responding, and you don't. You say you will, but you don't. I remember calling Kempville Services. We'll be there on Wednesday. Wednesday comes and goes. Nobody comes. Oh, I don't know. She's busy right now. What about next Wednesday? So from the time of the first communications, which had come from Danny in New York, to her coming was 3.5 weeks. And when she came, all she wanted was my documentation that they would get reimbursed for whatever it was they would do for me. And she brought a man along to protect her or something. I thought he had given me his card, but he had given me her card. So I told Jennifer, I don't know what his name is. She calls. She asks the question on a message because she didn't get anybody to answer. What was the name of the man that came along with you last week? And she gets 2 days later a response, I can't tell you that.
Wow.
So I write back to her, secrets, secrets, secrets. Everything is a secret. Can't you answer a question with an answer? No, didn't respond to me either. Now, where does she get her money? They got an office in downtown Kentville. Fairly elaborate place, too. The money comes from United Appeal.
Okay.
The charity is supposedly funding her to respond to the needs of the community. And she couldn't talk to me because she was going to a fundraiser. A fundraiser when you're not answering the telephone. And who is United Appeal? Well, they're the same people who would have been prepared, had I asked, to give the Ontario Hydro $19,000, and I would have a bill of $19,000. If the people who donate from their paychecks every payday to help out the community, do they realize that the beneficiary is fraud by Hydro? Hydro has a process. They look around for seniors that are alone, who paid a bill. Then they send them exaggerated bills, which they know the person can't pay. But they know that the person has equity because they own a piece of property. So they maintain that they're owed this money, and nobody questions them. No matter how you stomp your feet and say this is ridiculous, 58,000 families brought down to a single person, most of them in Ontario in 1 year, get asked for money they don't owe. How much money does the charity get for its donations? You know, how much services get done? None. The money all goes to a person who can send out a bill for Hydro that is absolutely fraudulent. And nobody investigates. Not only that, they're neighbors. They build buildings one next to the other, the OPP building, the Hydro building.
That's the most shocking thing, that they won't investigate that disparity in a bill, you know. So it's just basically saying they can charge what they want. That's what they're
I'm
saying.
just wondering, maybe someone steal actually electricity from you as well, when you have this big bill.
Here, it's all comes down to that meter. That meter, analog, no problem.
Yeah.
They arrive without being asked. They take it off the wall. They put a meter, smart meter in. Things continue, no change. 6 months later, a hydro car appears. I'm here to change the meter. I said, I didn't call anybody to change the meter. No, hydro wants me to change the meter. They changed the meter again and put the old one in the car and leave. 3 months later, a private car arrives. I'm here from hydro to change the meter. What is it, or who is it that is not satisfied with the numbers that came up on the other 2 meters? You know, what is it? And he said, oh, I'm on contract. I don't work for them. I just changed meters. Changed meters. Boom! Bills start coming in, 2,000, 3,000, 8,000, 12,000, 15,000. And any lawyer that I speak to says, no. Costs them $5,000 to hire a lawyer to go to court. The minute you pass $5,000, it's the money they want. Because the first $5,000 is going to go to the lawyer, to me.
Yeah.
Okay? So if it gets to $10,000, we're going to court. Because they can make $5,000 and the lawyer can make $5,000. Okay? But if it goes beyond 5,000, beyond 10,000, what they're looking for is not the money. They're looking for your estate. They will come to me when you die and say, I want my $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, whatever. And they will say, you're the lawyer, here's your $5,000. And no one will argue with me as a lawyer when I say they've been trying to collect this money for years and years and years and never been able to. But it's owed and pay it. So what do? They sell the property that the dead person is not there to object about. They get a couple of $100,000 profit. They pay hydro $20,000, $30,000, whatever the interest that hydro decided to put on it. And nobody knows. Nobody argues. The person's property is the lawyers to determine. So hydro then has 2 choices once they pass $10,000. 3 choices. Go to court. Don't go to court and go to court when the person dies, or sell the debt to a credit collection agency. If you want cash right away, you take 10 cents on the dollar, whatever. So all you get while you're alive is then a credit company calling that they are collecting for hydro. They're not collecting for hydro, they're collecting for themselves with a fraudulent hydro bill that they hope you will pay or borrow the money from a charity or go be helpful to us and die. Yeah.
Then if you sell this land now, farm, then the debt is coming with the new owner for hydro. No, it's yours.
Yeah. No, it's not attached to anybody else but Glen Kealey. But Glen Kealey has no money.
Yeah, that's.
So even if they went to court and asked for, $10,000 instead of $20,000, I can't live on what they give to me in a month. And now they've taken a third of that. So another division comes in to apply pressure by reducing what I get. And Revenue Canada, here's an experience I have with Revenue Canada. I get given back pay 3 years into my old age pension that they should have paid 3 years before of $28,000. They take the money, 6,000 something with the hydro to put the extension from the hydro pole. I paid for the other poles going in that direction, and
We saw this.
and all the electric plug-ins that are there, separate from the 6,000 that went to hydro. You gotta get an electrician to come in and do all that. So 3 years later, I get a notification from Revenue Canada that I owe them $5,000. No discussion on why or where or what. I owe them $5,000. I said, that doesn't make any sense. And I look at the paperwork in detail, and what they have actually done on paper is conservative party is now in power. When I got paid the $28,000, the Liberals were in power. So the notification of a debt of $5,000 has been backdated to the Liberal time in power. So I go off and I ask lawyers and other people that I know, and I end up speaking to a guy in Nova Scotia. He says, you don't understand the rules of the game. When you are paid a back payment, you should be thankful to your local politician. And you show that appreciation by donating $5,000 to his election fund. If he hasn't received the $5,000 within 3 years of you having received the money, the government comes back and wants the $5,000 so they can give it to him. Okay? And you didn't pay, and you didn't want to pay, so they put it on your account. And I said, well, if anybody knows that it doesn't matter what they put on my account, I don't have a job. I don't have any income except the old age pension. And that's barely enough for me to exist, let alone give $5,000. So they start adding interest on the money,
Yeah.
and the 5,000 has now become $13,000. Okay, and they're doing the same thing as hydro
Yeah,
from a
they,
different direction.
I have the same situation in Scotland. I pay back my debts and my loans, and then I use the organization which actually is by government.
Yeah.
They allow to do it. It means you can take all the debts in
Yeah.
credit cards, whatever you
Consolidate.
have. They talk with this banks, and they just cut the interest
Yeah.
or stop. And they didn't do this with one loan. And I pay them for this, but when they send me every month the receipt, like the bill, like how they're doing, they always put the price which I pay for them, and they didn't tell me it's as a bank payment.
Yeah.
And from this bank payment, actually my loan started growing, and the bank opened, of course, another account because they like you have loan, then open the account, and they from this account, from my account, business account, goes to to the new account they open, the money I pay every month, and from this it's paying loan.
Yeah.
And because there wasn't any money, because I didn't pay, I thought I pay, they start grow interest. And I said, that's ridiculous. You make interest on some account which I never opened, and there is no point. You know what I mean? This is how they make money. And since then, I just realized they lied to me.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, I stopped paying.
Yeah.
I paid maybe £1 per month, and now I don't pay. I pay just, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I said I'm not gonna pay. I paid. I won't be honest.
Yeah.
I spoke with one guy. I won't be honest, and I was honest. I said I'm not gonna pay because this is bullshit. They're stealing money from people.
Absolutely.
They want me to pay much more than I should pay, making fake account, fake interest from no money going to this account. It's like, why you make that new account? This is how it works. It's like, really? That's stealing money. That's make fake account, fake interest. I said, I'm not gonna pay. I'm really not paying. Always my tax return every year is like no money.
See, the same thing here is they can't get it if they believe they can get it. It's when I die. But there's no money. And if I die, I'm not there to show the documentation that transferred to us.
Yeah.
And therefore the property belongs to the girls as far as the registry is concerned. So they can't get it from the girls. I'm not there, they get nothing.
Yeah.
So what do? They take it off my current pension, $900 a month. Go from $2,200 down to $1,300, and that's my cat food. That's my food.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is like really a lot of money. They should be kind of minimum. That's their minimum and the maximum. This is their maximum. Yes, health pension. That's a lot.
But then two people working in that field come and offer help and bring food. Are they working together? Are they working one against the other? I don't know.
Time will tell.
All I know is that Robin and Sue have access that I don't have to government activity and charitable organization activity. And if they choose to come here, it can only be they're nice people or they're under orders. That's it. They are government-oriented people with a background, life in governments, and therefore those, it's not like you guys are independent, your own businesses and stuff like that. But these people have to respond to government. So are they doing it because they notice something's wrong and they're good people?
Maybe there's some organization which actually, help.
Yeah.
And if, you have kind of debts and they, cut you, they have access to this stuff.
Yeah.
Like social workers work. They have access to everything.
Yeah.
They know about everything. And on the base this, they can help you if you are not criminal or something like that,
Yeah.
Then help you, because it also depends from the organization. If they really have good heart, they help you. If not, then it's like,
And here what they bring is obviously not something that they went to the store and got. It's always a package of things, like you need dental care, there's a package for that. You need sanitary stuff, there's a package for that. You need cans, there's one of each, So are they going to a food bank to get the food and bringing it? I don't know. I wish I did. The cell does not tell me anything that is criminal, because that's already before their court and they're not allowed to talk. So if what they're doing is criminal, the cell wouldn't tell me, and they haven't told me. Is it because they never looked at it and they have no information or whatever? Or is it because what they looked at is criminal? Now you live with it and you wait, see what happens.
We'll get some lunch soon, like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some lunch and bring you some lunch as well.
Yeah, I'll bring you some.
Where did you bring me bank this morning? A solar.
One, but there's one.
Yeah,
I forgot
one is
at
at
the
home.
house.
We come back today.
Yeah.
because I'm
How
not-
many had I given you?
3 or 4. I have to check.
I think it's 4.
4.
Yeah.
Then 4.
Yeah. And you
I
brought
give
me
you
one.
one.
There's
One
one.
is in the car and 2 is supposed to be at home.
One's charging now in the
Yeah.
car because there's a USB charger.
Yeah.
So that might be done. We'll go get the other one.
Okay.
Come back with some bit
Sure.
of lunch.
Yeah.
And,
I gotta plug them in before the sun goes down.
Yeah.
I usually do that
they've
once a day.
we were looking online for some stuff as well.